Okay, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakat, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who teacheth the Bible in 100% truth, and shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, starting with the 144,000, consisting of the Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans in the land of the Americas, as well as the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners living amongst the other nations. Shalom to you. Okay, today looking again at prophecy, and we've got certain prophecies that we're expecting to see come to pass very soon, and so for that reason, certain subjects are on repeat, but more information, more understanding comes out all the time. And so for that reason, obviously, we have to keep, mentioning the same subjects. We're given a warning. So the events leading us up to the MOTB, which is spoken of, Revelation chapter 13, I believe it's 16 on down. We have to use code names in order to stop the videos being flagged on the algorithm. So we're waiting for this major prophecy, the MOTB, to come to pass. We're waiting for the development of Armageddon, a process within World War III. There's a start point, there's an end point, and within that there's going to be a time of Armageddon where mountains of troops are meeting up in the Middle East, in the Levant, for the Third World War. So that's two major prophecies we're waiting for, and then the third and fourth is the deliverance of the elect of the nation of Israel, the return of Yahweh Shai, the Messiah, at one particular moment, and then you have the destruction of America, Babylon the Great, through nuclear ICBMs, and then with the destruction of that completes the destruction of this current kingdom, this current empire that we live within or live under the rule of. So four major things we're waiting for, and I've explained before that two of those, the latter two, the return of Yahweh Shai, the destruction of America, these come simultaneously, and you're not going to see something on earth, you're not going to see actions of people on earth to give you an idea of when that's going to happen. That's just going to happen at a certain point, after the implementation of the MOTB, and obviously at that time, we will also have the start of Armageddon. So once those two have taken place, we know then that those latter two prophecies come to pass. But with the first two, I've explained before, we can look at people on earth and see the actions that they take, and they are leading us down the road to the introduction of those two major prophecies, Armageddon and the MOTB. And to categorize all that into one group of people, you'd go to the banking elites. The book of Revelation chapter 13, it also speaks of the beast system, which I've spoken of many times, with two horns like a lamb, which spake as a dragon. So this represents your two-party democratic system, the right to choose, the fact that they are two horns like a lamb, so they seem as if very friendly, unable to harm. However, these two horns are connected to the same beast. That's the beast system, and ultimately they will be speaking with draconian measures, especially in the times coming up very soon. It's starting to happen at the minute, with people being put in jail for so-called free speech. So we understand what the beast system is. I'm not going to go into it too deep. There are other videos there. You have the beast system, which is EU and NATO in its current day form, and then you have America, which is the whore in Revelation chapter 17 spoken of, which rides that particular beast in order to fulfill the will of the whore. And so, this is all parabolic, but translating that into something of substance in the world, we look at EU, we look at the NATO, we look at the beast system, we look at America, we look at the worldwide geopolitical system, the structure, the way it's set up today, and we look at the financial system, and we know that this is what's incorporated within what we call that beast system. But you want to translate the beast system into, not just a system. Now you want to translate it into particular people. And at the very top, the very top of the beast system, we always tell you that, what you can see here now on the screen, we have the banking elites. So to translate the beast system into people, you have the banking elites. You then have masses of people within the system that work for the beast system, that help to operate and make the beast system work and exist. And so therein lies turning the beast system into people, translating it in terms of people. So at the very top, we have people like the banking elites. We know one example, the Rothschild family. And so that's something we understand, and then we have to look at, what I've explained before. It's I used the analogy a few times before, and I hope it makes sense. You watch the older James Bond movies, maybe not the new ones, the current day. The modern day, they've got all these special effects. James Bond, he'll capture one guy, and to do it, he'll destroy the whole neighborhood. That's not realistic, and that doesn't translate to what actually happens in the world today. You're watching it, and you're watching a movie about a spy and secret missions, yet he's destroyed a whole postcode, a whole zip code to catch one particular criminal. It doesn't make sense. But when you watch the older ones, they don't have those special effects. They have to rely on the character, the charm, the storyline, so on and so forth. And so then it becomes more realistic to how things operate in the world today. And when you watch those older James Bond movies, like I've said it before, he goes out to uncover the secret plans of the secret enemy of whatever they're doing. They've stolen this rocket off a government, and they're looking to fire it off into space. And so James Bond's mission is to go out there and uncover who's got this rocket. And so he walks, he could take it, that journey could take him anywhere around the world, and he bumps into people all the time, taxi drivers, people at the hotels, here and there, everywhere. But in amongst that, there are then operatives for that organization. And when you watch the James Bond movie, the organization is pretty much Spectre. So Spectre has, it has the top boss, and then it has operatives out there, and their job is to stop anyone like James Bond getting close to the center of the organization. They try to take him out. The problem with James Bond, the storyline always goes, it never really happens. So he ends up face to face with the leader or the center of the organization, and therein he by the end of the movie, he tends to bring down the organization, and he gets out. And if you always watch at the end, especially in the older ones, he gets into the center of the organization, he destroys it, and then he sends signal out to either the UK or the US government, and then they come along and they destroy the place. So you've got this bad guy operating from an island, and then James Bond eventually gets onto the island, finds out who's running the organization, who's got the stolen rocket. The bad guy usually somehow in the movie ends up telling James Bond all his plans, but then James Bond, he thinks he's got James Bond wrapped up and in under lock and key. However, James Bond ends up making explosions on the island. So the island starts blowing up, the machinery starts blowing up, all the people start fleeing, and then he dives in the water, swims out, and then the government come in, and because they've now got the location of this place, so they come in then and destroy this place, drop rockets on it. And that's the end of Spectre for that current movie. But there's always another movie, because there's always someone out there from Spectre, who survived, who continues the organization and sets it up somewhere else. So we have a similar thing that operates today. And when I first came to the truth, I've explained it before, had a vision, was knocked out of the chair, I had the Holy Spirit, pretty much a vision came, showed me various different bits of information. That's what turned me into, if you like, a believer. And then, I've explained before, I had this vision, and there was many different parts to it, and all different types of details. The last part I saw was the earth, and it was a ball, and it was spinning, and everything around it was black. You can call it space, but everything was black around the vision anyway, apart from the things I saw in the middle. But the earth was spinning, and then around it, it was like a web. And I explained before that the web meant deceit. I think I've quoted Job before, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. And you looked at it, and I felt affected by it. I felt like, there's a lot of deceit here. This is like, it made me feel sick. Like, is that the earth? And is that really the level of deceit? So the web represented the deceit, and the deceit covered everything. And there was no part of the earth that was free. So you then, when the vision leaves, it's like you understand how deep the deception goes, because the vision came and it cut you. And so you understand the deepness of the deception, but you don't have the information to give out. You don't have it on detail. And it's very hard, to take every lie in the world that's going on today and list it. You've got people lying to their partners, committing adultery. You've got government leaders lying to masses of people. Everybody in between is lying or BSing at some point during the day. But it's very hard to list every single lie on the planet today. But when you look at it on a high level, you look at it on a international level, in a governmental level, and then you look at the oppression that the people come under, and the captivity that we live under, the type of agendas that are around us, you realize it's all goes back to one particular Spectre-like organization. And to turn that, like I say, into people, you'd speak of the banking elites, people like the Rothschild. Now, looking at this here, so you have the banking elites, right? So they own and control. Own and control what? They own or control, if you like, special interest groups, military industrial complexes, and corporate lobbyists. Now, just dealing with those three at the minute, we're going to look them up. So the banking elites, and it said under special interest groups, it said manipulate. So whether it's own or control, in terms of special interest groups, the banking elites, with the money that they have, the power that they have, they can make people disappear. Nobody questions it. So with the power that they have, the money that they have, they manipulate special interest groups. Special interest groups is a community within a larger organization with a shared interest in advancing a specific area of knowledge, learning, or technology, where members cooperate to effect or to produce solutions within their particular field, and may communicate, meet, and organize conferences. So, for example, you have like the WEF, so on and so forth. There was a little bit more. So the technical, you have like technical and non-technical SIGs, special interest groups. I mean, a technical one would be, for example, computer firms. You have the computer industry worldwide, and then you have certain top guys within that field, and they'll meet maybe yearly in a conference, and then they'll discuss where the direction of the computing world needs to go. And then, so they're manipulated by banking elites. A non-technical SIG, for example, would be trade unions. And trade union is dealing with people, not a product. So it's then a non-technical SIG. But special interest groups, for example, I believe climate control. You have various bodies of people around the world which deal with the environment, and within those there are top researchers, top scientists, top professors. They get together and they say, well, we know what the problems are happening all over the world, and this is where it's going in the next 20 years. We need to influence the world in this way to help the environment. So that's another example of a special interest group. Now it says, we jump over to corporate lobbyists. Now these people get bribed. They get bribed to do what? It says here, companies, it's corporate lobbyists, yeah. Companies regularly engage in lobbying companies to influence legislation and regulation to favor their businesses. Lobbying occurs at all levels of government, from the municipal and state level to federal elections. What is corporate lobbying? In simple terms, it is the practice through which people hired by corporations, lobbyists, influence government decisions. Those lobbyists approach politicians, usually legislators, to influence the outcome of the bills. Negotiations take place behind doors. An example of lobbying is a special interest group that hires a lobbying organization to influence an elected official on a particular policy or law, such as with pro-climate change group that hires a lobbyist to influence elected officials to create legislation addressing rising temperatures in specific geographic issues, or whatever it's going to go on to say there, problems. So from understanding that and going back to this, so now can you see why the banking elites, the people with the money, they don't need to run the government to run the world, because governments come and go. What they really need to do is control the money, because with the money they can manipulate special interest groups, and with the money they can bribe corporate lobbyists. Like I said, they have the power to make people disappear. This is like a spectre organization working behind closed doors. The banking elites will also own military industrial complexes, so they'll own them. They won't just slap their name on the deed, on the ownership. They'll have a family member or a cousin or a company set up in a family member's name, which ultimately owns companies and these corporations, and those particular corporations will deal with producing arms, guns, tanks, all types of weapons. And don't forget, the scriptures tell us that Esau is blessed with the sword. And when you're dealing with the banking elites, you're dealing with the elites of the Edomite nation. So, where else are you going to see but them being blessed with the sword, in terms of them having ownership of these military complexes and so on and so forth. So, and it says under that, it says profit from perpetual conflict. So at this point, all we need to know is that if there's war going on, these particular corporations are going to get money, they're going to make money, and they're owned by banking elites. And so from this point onwards, now you have a government. You see, this is where Revelation chapter 13 comes into place. Speaking about that top section, you could go to Psalms chapter 64, secret counsel of the wicked. But then when we hit this section on the flow chart where we hit the government control, you start to hit Revelation chapter 13. Two horns like a lamb. The beast had two horns like a lamb, which spake as a dragon. Now, government, the word government, comes from govern. So to govern is to control, and ment is from your mentality, from your mind. So the government from people who are higher than the government. They have the government to do what? To govern the mind of the masses of the people. Because your banking elites and your interests goes into manipulating special interest groups, owning military industrial complexes, and bribing corporate lobbyists. So now you don't need to worry about the masses of the people. You get someone else to do it. You get them voted in and out. It allows the people to be happy. They may get angry every 4 years because their vote didn't go right, and the world's, their little part of the world got really bad. And now next 4 years you get to vote again. And that's all it is. They keep dangling the carrot in front of these people, and they use the government to do it. This is governing the mind, controlling the mind of the masses. And like Revelation chapter 13 tells you, the two horns ultimately go back to the same beast. So you try to run away from the beast, you can't, by choosing one of the two horns. So the government now, they get voted in, they're getting paid lots of money. Whoever gets the opportunity, they take it. This is the world we live in. And the government then used the police, the military, and alphabet agencies to influence, control, and pretty much control the people. The police here says to suppress and extort. So by having police agencies in force, that stops people committing crime. Then they're out there on this money making tip where they just didn't want to give you tickets, and they're just trying to rake in as much money as they can. At the minute, we're heading towards a lawless society. Don't forget the banking elites, the ones at the very top who want to bring about the MOTB, want to do it through civil unrest and lawless society. So now looking at this, you can understand how they can influence the lack of funding for police, and the police at the minute have less powers than they've ever had to suppress criminals, and that's why criminals are becoming more and more rampant. And this is all leading us to the unlawlessness of the MOT, eventually taking us to the MOTB. The military, sorry to say it, but if you join the military, you're pretty much just a tool of sacrifice. The government have foreign policies. They get into issues with other nations because they want to implement their belief system on other nations around them. America does that, for example. But America's government is ultimately controlled by the banking elites. So even though America is the whore that rides that beast and it has a governmental control, and the military, it's the banking elites that really pull the strings. You have alphabet agencies which go out. They find out, you have what they call agents in amongst the people. They find out what the mood of the people are. They report it back. They go out into other places and sow discord in political scenarios in order to collapse governments, bring in other governments. See, this is when we start to think of Spectre in James Bond. You've got this organization. Within the organization, you've got the people of the world, but then within that, there's other people who belong to this organization. And looking at this is the banking elites. Now, the banking elites also have a thing called the mainstream media. You look at the mainstream media, the main major companies, they all go back to banking elites. It says here they are to misinform and brainwash. Misinform and brainwash who? Well, it bypasses everybody and goes straight down to you, the person on the street. See, you can... So what people do, they watch the mainstream media, and whatever agenda is pushed to them through that, they then see the effects of that come down through the special interest groups and the corporate lobbyists. This then gets to the government. The government are under pressure from above, pressure from below. So they are influenced, through manipulation and through bribery. It all filters down the flowchart, and then ultimately the government speaks to us. Eventually, it will be speaking us to in a draconian level, which it is doing at the minute. Like I say, by locking people up for so-called free speech. So, what a lot of people do, they look at the government, they look at the mainstream media, and they have no idea what's going on around it. You got the position where it says you, and this is what a lot of people on the planet Earth do. They look at themselves, they look at the government, they look at the mainstream media, and they create an opinion. And that's why you go online, you've got so many billions of people around the world, all giving their nonsense opinion, and none of it really means anything or is going anywhere. But when you look at this, you can understand now how, you look around in society, where does this alphabet agenda come from? Where does this agenda come from? Where does that agenda come from? Where does the agenda for war come from? And influencing other systems. You've got nations out there, for example, that don't necessarily want to follow the democratic system. They want to follow their religious law. But to be part of the world, to be able to trade, you have to be part of the beast system. So now you have to fall into line with what they want, and the beast system will tell you need a democratic system, you need a government, and that's why they want to set up all these things in your country. So taking that deeper, on a deeper level, like I said, you've got the Spectre organization, you've got banking elites. Okay, we can translate the beast system into a group of people, the banking elites. One example is the family of the Rothschild. The family of the Rothschild, you can go on YouTube and you can find videos very easily of, I don't know which one it is, one of the Rothschilds pretty much saying that we're responsible for installing the state of Israel in 1948. And so these are banking elites. You got the Bellflower Declaration. If you look up that will tell you, that will lead you into the path of installing that government in 1948. And that government over there are pretty much referred to as what you see on the screen here is Zionism. Now, I don't really want to say the word too much. I don't want to upset the algorithm. So I'll try to skip around it. But this particular word here now, so it says here, as an organized nationalist movement, ism is generally considered to have been founded by Theodor Herzl in 1897. It says here, however, the history of ism began earlier and is intertwined with their small hat history. So just jumping down a little bit, I'm only going to read what I really need. So this Herzl, he had the ideology of the ism, and or the ists. It says here, Herzl sought an independent small hat state, usually defined as a secular state with a small hat majority population, in contrast to a theocratic halakhic state, as expressed in his 1896 pamphlet, Der Judenstaat, which I believe is German. It says, though he did not live to witness it, his vision was fulfilled in the founding of the State of Israel in 1948. So you have this ideology, what's written at the top here. And this ideology, started off, they say here, with Theodor Herzl, although it, may have come from, their history, things within their history. He's somebody who's known to be speaking of it around the time of 1897. So, ultimately this is an ideology. But then, come 1948, this ideology then gets put onto paper. And then you have an organization, the State of Israel, ultimately a corporation. And so with that you then have existence of the ism, the people who believe in that ism, the Zionists, pretty much, they now have a chance to operate within the beast system. It says here that Herzl wanted a ideology which is in contrast to the theocratic halakhic states, and when you click on that, the halakhic state is pretty much religious law. So you have these small hats which are living in the land today. Yes, they're imposters, but they don't know it because they're born into it. And then you have the Orthodox, all black, big hats, and then you have the small hats, the Zionists, the isms, and ultimately, those Orthodox, if you are really the children of the Most High, then shouldn't you be following the Most High's law? And so this is where the split comes in. But then you see these isms, the ists on the ist side, the small hats, they want to be part of the beast system. That's how they founded the government, through the beast system, and that's how they then have that control of that particular land at the minute. That's how they have the military to keep hold of it, because if they didn't have that military, then and all the funds that were given to them from the beast system through the Western hemisphere, if you like, through the Western society, if they didn't have all that, then these Ishmaelites would have taken them out a long time ago. And so you can look here, for example, this question is here: Can Israel be both a democracy and a small hat state? Pretty much. They divide it up into, it says here, Haredi, ultra orthodox, and Dati, orthodox, Masorti, and then at the top, pretty much, it just gives you all of them. Percentage of, so this is giving you the percentage of small hats who say Israel can be both a democracy and a state. So, to be the state, ultimately you're going to have to follow within the beast system, follow the rules of the beast system, things like Pink City. But then you have, on the other hand, you have these Orthodox, which is supposed to be the God's people following God's law. So you've got a clash. And then when you start to realize, you go back. Let me just go back to you go back to this word here, Zionists, and then you go back to the structure here. Then what you start to realize is everything that they have. When I say they, the powers that be, the ones that manipulate the agendas, the banking elites, everything they have is within corporations. You see, they are a corporation. They're the banking elites. They own and control these other corporations, which ultimately manipulate the government. The government is a corporation, and that's why they're trying to make money out of you by the police extorting you. For example, you're paying taxes to them, so on and so forth, and they have the military to keep control, whether it be in their own country or abroad, and they have alphabet agencies to go out there and manipulate and bring down governments that are opposed to the will of the beast system. So now you have this beast system, which is like the James Bond movie. You have the people of the world, and within it there are people who genuinely believe they're just doing a job. But then within that, you have people who work for the secret organizations, the corporations, the spectres. And if you want to label, instead of using the word spectres, then you go back to the word the isms. Okay, so this is where you get the ism people. You look at the banking elites, that's what they are. And you look within a lot of these corporations and what the rules and what they stand for, controlling the media, so on and so forth, it all goes back to these people. So before I move any further, Jeremiah chapter 50. This talks about the destruction of America, Babylon the Great, prophecy against Babylon. It says, Jeremiah 15:1, it says, the word of Yahweh spake against Babylon and against the land of the Chaldeans by Jeremiah the prophet. It says, declare ye among the nations and publish and set up a standard. Publish and conceal not. Say, Babylon is taken, Bel is confounded, Merodach is broken in pieces, her idols are confounded, her images are broken in pieces. So, we're about to witness the destruction of Babylon the Great, America, and with that, the influence that it has over the world. It'll be the end of the beast system. And within the beast system, they incorporate idolization and worship of idols from ancient philosophies. So it's all coming to an end. Here we are, bringing you the root cause of these things, and the root of these false idol worships, showing you that they don't mean nothing. They go back to dead gods, and they will have no power in the day of the Lord. We're showing you that the destruction of America is only a matter of months away. It says, but for out of the north there cometh up a nation against her, which is Russia. It says, which shall make her land desolate. It says, and none shall dwell therein. They shall remove, they shall depart, both man and beast. And so they're going to do that through the use of the nuclear ICBMs. And it says, in those days and in that time, saith Yahweh, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Yahweh together, going and weeping. They shall go and seek Yahweh their power. So you go into Ezekiel chapter 37, and it speaks of a great awakening, which is taking place in the latter days, and that's what's happening at the minute. You see all the tribes coming together as one, recognizing each other, recognizing that we are as one as a nation. And so that's all spoken of in Ezekiel chapter 37. It says, they shall ask the way to Zion with their faces to the wood. Because at the minute, when you go there, there's corporations there, and these aren't the real people. They're there because of a corporation installed by another corporation, and ultimately all these different corporations have one goal, and that one goal is to promote those false people, those false isms, the false Zionism. But we are the true children, and this is why we are asking the way to Zion with their face thitherward, to saying, come and let us join ourselves to Yahweh in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. It says, my people have been lost sheep, their shepherds have caused them to go astray. They have turned them away on the mountains, they have gone from the mountain to hill. They have forgotten their resting place. All that found them have devoured them. That's all these other nations. And their adversaries said, we offend not, because they have sinned against Yahweh, the habitation of justice, even Yahweh, the hope of their forefathers. Because this is what we tell you all the time, these banking elites, the ones at the very top, maybe not your average Joe, working at the supermarket checkout, but the people at the very top, these elites, the ones who are influencing all these corporations, who installed that corporation in the land today, in 1948, the one that's still there today, they knew who we were. And they knew that when we called on Yahweh, there's nothing they could do. But that went away. We forgot the name. We forgot who we are. And so this is why they see it as justification to say, well, look, these people, they sin against their own power. So whatever we do to them, we devour them. The Most High ain't gonna care, because look how He's left them and forgotten them. Look, the hope of our fathers was Yahweh. We never had that hope, and now we're having it back. It's coming back to us. Like I say, Ezekiel chapter 37. It's the great awakening, the great remembrance. It says, remove out of the midst of Babylon, and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans, and be as he-goats before the flocks. And in this time, you're not supposed to literally flee America to escape the judgment. You're supposed to, if you believe in this truth, you're supposed to have the faith that you'll be delivered from there. But removing yourself from the midst of Babylon, in the book of Revelation, it talks about not being partakers in her ways. Even if you're living slap bang in the center of Babylon the Great, there's true men of the Most High out there now that have removed themselves from the ways of Babylon the Great. Even for myself, I'm not living in America, I'm in the UK. However, the ways of Babylon are around me, and I have to remove myself from those and not get involved. You look at people around you, they commit adultery, they eat abominable foods, and they don't worry about the Most High's law. but we do. So wherever we are, we have to remove ourselves from the wickedness that is that they're partaking in around us. Jeremiah 15:9 says, "For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country." So Russia will have alliances and a great array of nations, a great assembly of nations, from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. Because these arrows represent nuclear ICBMs, and the Most High is going to put His Spirit on them to make sure they hit the target as of a mighty expert man. And it says here, none shall return in vain. And the Chaldean shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith Yahweh, because you were glad, because you rejoiced, O ye destroyers of mine heritage, because you are grown fat as the heifer at the grass, and bellow as bulls. And this is the point I wanted. Jeremiah 50:12 says, "Your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert." And the hindermost of the nations, the one that's out there, far out there on the map, when you look at it, is out there west. It's America, Babylon the Great. It says it shall be a wilderness. It says that your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed. And so you go into the history books and you understand that America is pretty much born out of independence from England. Once upon a time you had Britannia ruled the waves, so there was the ultimate controlling power over the earth. But this was all development and leading us up to the establishment of the modern day beast system spoken of in Revelation chapter 13. So eventually America had to take over that, and that's what America has become. So your mother represents England, the mother of America, but England is also the mother of the land of Israel, the small hats, the corporation that has established themselves in that land. So like I said before, you had Lord Rothschild, who's come out. He's explained that they're responsible, his family are responsible for the introduction of that government. You call it a government, you call it whatever you want. I call it a corporation, because that's what they're about. They're about corporations. And how do they do it? They use the influence of all the corporations involved in the flow chart that you see on the screen, in able to achieve that. So that's what they've done. And so understanding that, that's just one side of it. I mean, you could then go into the witchcraft and so on and so forth. But you look at that, and then you start to understand the level of deception that is around the world. Like I saw in the vision, the web around the world, like a network of lies. It goes into the education system, it goes into the witchcraft, into the false idolatry, it goes into average Joe every day lying to each other on the street, robbing each other. It goes into the way that we're charged money for things. Everything's corrupt in this society, but it all starts from the top, and these are the people that establish this society. The reason why they make it such a smoke and mirror society is for them to hide themselves within it. And so you look at this, what you're looking at the screen, if you can start to decipher that and separate the wood from the trees, then you're like James Bond, because you started to work out who's not working for Spectre and who is. And like I say, when you work your way through the system, from yourself all the way back to the banking elites, the one common thing you're going to find with every single one is that they're a corporation, and B, they're Zionists. They're not the the Orthodox. Obviously, you know, the Orthodox, they do their thing. They're going to be about here and there. They're going to have their, you know, everybody has their type of. There's many groups of people around the world. There's people fighting for the rights of the white Caucasian male. There's people fighting for the rights of BLM, so on and so forth. And then you got to start to ask yourself, like I've spoken of before, controlled opposition, who is being manipulated, who has been bribed. You know, am I being given misinformation? Where are they trying to brainwash me? And why are things happening? And that seemed very bad. It's just because these elites want to make money. So, saying all that, I'm going to give you the link for this. Now, this is a really good video to watch. It's an hour long, and I would recommend watching it, the entire thing, from beginning to the end. Now, what this person you see on the left here, this is Professor David Miller. Professor David Miller used to work for Bristol University. He is a professor in sociology, amongst other things. So his thing is to, you know, look around the world, see how relationships, patterns and things are developing, look at ideologies and tell them for what they are. That's the bottom line. Being a professor in sociology, that's what he would be. Now, he got sacked some time ago from Bristol University, and it's because what he was teaching he was told that it was anti-small hat. There's another video I found. This is only a 5-minute video. It says you don't really need to watch this one, but it gives you a description here. It says the Bristol Employment Tribunal ruled in favour of Professor Miller, confirming that he had experienced discrimination based on his philosophical belief and had been unfairly dismissed by Bristol University. So, you know, you go back to this system here, and what Professor David Miller did is, you know, being a sociology professor, he's going to talk to you about current trends and what's happening. So he did that, and they said, hang on a minute, you know, this is anti-small hat. We don't like this. And so all of a sudden, many corporations woke up within this system. They woke up and they said, hang on a minute, bribes went out, manipulation went out, and there is an agenda to follow, and you're not allowed to speak about these certain things. Remember, we've said before, if you want to know who really runs the world, find out who you're not allowed to speak against. So, Professor David Miller found out, and he's a professor, so he has a whole vast of information on the corporations that are ultimately born through the ideology of Zionism. So that's what he is. Now, when you watch this interview here, like for example, the Muslim guy, he gets quite excited because the professor is basically telling them that, you know, Islam is under attack from these particular people. And so the Muslim guy kind of gets excited, but the professor is not of Islam himself. And he doesn't speak from the point of view of Islam. He keeps coming back to the point of view of that he's a professor, and his thing is to study the ism, study the small hats. So what we try and explain to you, you know, that ideology that got turned into a corporation in 1948, he then goes through the understanding of it from then until now. And what he does, he starts off with, like, for example, Tommy Robinson. So he shows you the UK riots, Tommy Robinson. Then he tells you Tommy Robinson's name isn't really Tommy Robinson. His surname is Lennon. But, you know, to fulfill the role he's fulfilling, he can't do that with an Irish surname. He had to have an English name. So they gave him a classic English name, Tommy Robinson. So he rolls off pseudonames, and he takes you through the links. He starts off with Tommy Robinson. He works back into the small hats. He shows you many corporations, organizations that are funding him. And then he leads you back into the fact that it's European-wide. This is a European problem. and then he leads you into the connections around the world. Ultimately, he then goes on, you got to watch it right to the end, because even the last 5 minutes, he goes on to say that the timing of the riots in the UK. Now, we know that at the minute, we're heading towards the MOTB. We know many false flag events are going to create civil unrest, and when there's a total collapse in order, that's probably likely the time we're going to see this MOTB. We're going to see pestilences along the way, lots of crime, increasing crime, so on and so forth. So we know that's what's due to come to pass. But the situation with the riots in the UK, there's a certain timing to it. And in the last 5 minutes, when he's asked about the timing of it, you have to watch the first 55 minutes, because when you start to realise all the information that he's got, you realise that he's got a very good viewpoint on what's happening. And when he was asked, why with the timing of the riots now, the situation is pretty much because the UK are announcing that they're going to pause funding for arms to the small hats for the war that they're going on at the minute. So if you understand that, then you understand that, going back to this, you have a government within the UK. The government tried to fight for the rights of the so-called English person, but within the government, within the companies above, the special interest groups, the military industrial complexes, the corporate lobbyists, the mainstream media, within the police, within the alphabet agencies, within the military, there are people working for this secret organization. You could call it Spectre, or you could call it Zionism. And they're based around corporations. So he even says in the last 5 minutes that, look, the MI5 working for the government in the UK knew the riots were coming, and so they went out to the leaders of the Islamic churches in the UK, the imams, and told them, look, they're going to create these riots, and tell your people not to react to the riots because it's all part of a plan. And who's behind the plan? The isms. The same people that own the banks, the same people that control the governments, and so on and so forth. So you have a government trying to control according to their law. Don't forget, like I say, this beast system is full of many so-called innocent people. So they think they're just doing the right thing. Oh, well, I got voted in to make change, and I'm going to make change. But when you get in there, people start tapping you on the shoulder. Now, you can't do that, you can't do this. All of a sudden, you got to go ring MI5, your secret agent, and send them out there. Go and find out what's going on. Because something's going on, it's not right. Why is everybody going in this direction when I'm the government and I'm trying to push them in that direction? Sometimes you get to a brick wall and you realise there's nothing you can do. You have to go with the agenda. That's why these agendas hit you at so many angles, at so many, at once. When an agenda starts, like climate control, it comes through the companies. They start promoting it with their logo. Then it comes through the education system. All of a sudden, the police are wearing climate control badges. Everybody's got a freaking climate control badge. And now you've got people, on the street protesting. Next thing you know, they tell you that, we're running out of resources. We have to restrict what resources we're giving you as an individual. It's all part of control, order out of chaos. Like I keep saying, you're in the time of the Great Reset. So major chaos is being brought about in order to bring a major change. And so, like I say, you watch this particular video. This is Professor. I keep saying Professor because he's a professor. He's well studied in it, and he even talks you through the movement of the isms, and he basically describes it to a T. And he says that they can't exist without being racist. They have to. You have to watch what he says, because I want to be careful with my words, but he basically explains that it's a certain type of movement, and if you take that factor out of it, it wouldn't exist. And he even goes into the theory of what if you took these ism people and moved them to the North Pole, to Antarctica, what would they do then? it wouldn't exist, because then they have nothing to fight their ideology, and so then they wouldn't have their ideology. The ideology is based around shoehorning themselves into the scenario. So I hope what I'm explaining makes sense. What I'll also do, I'll leave the link for this one in the description box. I won't leave the link for this one. This is just tells you that he got acquitted of being anti whatever. He just basically spoke the truth. That's what he did. So like I say, within this system you have people who don't know, so they just become a judge, and you just make a ruling, and you think you're doing an honorable thing, you're working part of this great nation, but you're part of the beast system. And sometimes the beast, the secrets, people within it, the spectre, the isms, the corporations, sometimes they can't get to you directly, they get to you in a backhanded way. You saw the other day that the yacht, super yacht that went down with the rich Englishman, I think his name is Lynch, Mike Lynch, the super yacht went down in June. So basically what this guy had, he had a company, a tech company, where he took fingerprints. So it was taking fingerprints and turning it into digital technology or something like that. He sold the company to a US firm or something like that. Then when the US firm bought the company later down the line, they realized that he bumped them for like 30 mil or something stupid, I don't know. So they've taken him to court last month in June, I think it was, or something like that. He got acquitted in court. So he walked free. They said, no, you never did no wrong, it was their fault, they didn't check the information before they made the sale. Now he's died on his super yacht. On the same day that he died on his super yacht, the man who was acquitted with him in the court got run over. So I keep tell you about James Bond. This is when you work within the system, you can be an innocent person and not know, you just try to do your thing. But then when you start getting that tapping on the shoulder, you start moving with a higher level of clientele, and then you have to work within agendas. These agendas are set by corporations, the ism people, headed by the banking elites. But like I say, you only need to really watch this one here. But I'm also going to leave the link for this video. This is Remnant Saves 144. I think it's Elder. Is it Elder? Mashawamba. And it says here, a look into the reality of this captivity. We need salvation. And so what he does in this video, I spoke of Merodach and Baal ideology in the modern day system. I just broke down the beast system, took it back to people we can equate it to, took it back to the isms, took it back to the corporations. That's how you define it. Professor David Miller is going to show you exactly why we define it that way. But then, like I say, there's a whole another aspect to it. There's within witchcraft, influencing the people through the TV, through the witchcraft, through the media, through the false ideologies, through the idolization, incorporating ancient gods into modern day practices, so on and so forth. So, I mentioned it by speaking on Jeremiah chapter 50, but I didn't really go into it. But just before I made this video last night, and then I listened to it, and then I didn't like it because I was all over the place. So then I thought I'd scrap that, and then today I've woken up, I'm redoing the video, but before I did, I came across this one, a look into the reality of captivity. And obviously I thought, well, this is like, they go together, because you have the, you can look at it on a political, corporate level, or you can look at it in terms of the witchcraft, the idolization that is incorporated within it. It all goes together, hand in hand. So I'll leave the link for that one and this particular video here. And before I go, so this is Proverbs chapter 6. This is the words of Solomon, who actually, went on, his spirit is also the spirit of Yahushai, spirit of Isaac and Melchizedek, It's all the same. It's all pretty much Yahweh Shai, but this is Solomon. In the words of Solomon, this is Proverbs chapter 6. Now he's given parental counsel. As you can see here, Proverbs 6:1. My son, if thou be surety of thy friend, if thou hast stricken thy hand with a stranger, thou art snared with the words of thy mouth. Thou art taken with the words of thy mouth. So he's giving parental advice, and the same advice pretty much applies to us. I want to jump straight to the point, which is in verse 16. It says, these 6 things doth Yahweh hate. Yea, 7 are an abomination unto him. A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. A heart that deviseth wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in running to mischief. A false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among brethren. So, going back up to verse 16, it says, these 6 things doth Yahweh hate. Yea, 7 are an abomination unto him. And all the things you read of here, a proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that deviseth wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in running to mischief, a false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among brethren. Every single one of those traits can be incorporated and applied to the banking elites, the people like the Rothschild, to the corporations that they organize and control, the ism people. They all fall within this. How much of a proud look, lying tongue, hands that are shedding innocent blood, hearts, minds that are devising wicked imaginations, then they're swift to run to make these things happen, because they have the power, they have the control of the media, the military, and so on and so forth. A false witness that speaketh lies, controlled opposition, and he that soweth discord among brethren. All these traits, they have them all. The banking elites, the corporations, the ism corporations, right down to that one that they installed in the land in 1948. And like I say, Professor David Miller, he's pretty much full-time professor, and his subject is to expose the isms and how they're all connected. So like I say, please watch the video. The link will be in the description box. I hope that's edifying. Until next time, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Quadash. And until next time, Shalom.